Hey, welcome to our explainer. Today, we're tackling a question that feels like it's been ripped straight from a sci-fi novel. What if artificial superintelligence could actually make war obsolete? It sounds completely wild, right? But the logic behind it is surprisingly solid, and it could totally reshape everything we think we know about human conflict.
Just let that sink in for a second. War, the single biggest driver of history for thousands of years, could just stop. Not because we all suddenly decide to get along, but because it becomes a fundamentally illogical, pointless thing to even attempt.
Okay, so let's dive into how this could actually happen. First, we'll quickly run through the AI evolution timeline. You gotta know the players. Then, we'll look at how it could completely erase the reasons we fight. After that, we'll see how it makes the means of fighting impossible. And finally, we'll explore what conflict even looks like in a world where war is off the table.
So, where does this whole journey start? Well, it all kicks off with how AI is expected to evolve, and it really breaks down into 3 key stages.
You have to understand this timeline, because it's everything. Right now, we are firmly in the age of ANI, or artificial narrow intelligence. The AIs that write stuff or make pictures. The next big jump, predicted for around 2030, is AGI, artificial general intelligence. That's an AI as smart as a human. But the real game changer, the one this is all about, comes around 2040. That's ASI, or artificial superintelligence, an intellect so vast it would be to us what we are to ants. Yeah, that's the level of power we're talking about.
All right, let's talk about the first huge domino to fall, the economy. I mean, if you look back at all of human history, what's one of the biggest reasons for war? The fight for resources, right? Well, what happens when that reason just evaporates?
This right here shows you the massive shift. On the left, that's our world today, a constant competition for stuff that's running out, land, oil, you name it. On the right, that's the ASI world, a world of insane abundance. See, the key isn't finding resources, it's generating them. And when you can just make whatever you need, why on earth would you start a war to steal it?
And this is how it could play out. Just imagine an AI finally cracking nuclear fusion, giving us practically infinite clean energy. Or picture nanotech that can literally build anything you want, one molecule at a time. In a world like that, starting a war over oil would be like getting into a fistfight over a single glass of water when you're standing in the middle of an ocean. The entire economic calculation for war just gets flipped completely on its head.
So, okay, the economic reason to fight is gone. But what about the military itself? This is where it goes from mind-bending to, well, something else entirely. A country defended by an ASI wouldn't just be hard to attack, it would be impossible to attack.
See, this isn't about building a better tank or a faster jet. This is about making those things completely obsolete. An AI defense system would be processing so much data, it could see an attack coming days, maybe weeks away. Then, it could just neutralize the threat before it even gets off the ground, maybe with a perfect cyber attack or even microscopic nanobots. And if, by some miracle, a missile actually launched, it would be met with a perfectly calculated 100% effective intersection, every single time.
So the bottom line is this: war becomes a solved problem. For any country trying to attack, the outcome is a guaranteed 0. It's like trying to play chess against a grandmaster who can see every possible move you could ever make. It's not a fight, it's a mathematical certainty that you lose.
And you can imagine, this would cause a massive earthquake in global politics. If one ASI can offer perfect, unbeatable protection, why would any nation spend trillions on its own military? You might see a world where countries literally outsource their own survival. This brings us to this idea of a global peace protocol. Think of a single ASI acting like the planet's immune system. If a conflict flares up somewhere, the ASI sees it as a bug, an error in the system, and its response? It just patches it. Maybe it isolates the region, temporarily cutting power and communications until things cool down. It neutralizes the problem.
This would totally change diplomacy forever. Why have a bloody, devastating war when you can just ask the ASI to run a simulation? In a few seconds, it calculates the inevitable outcome, who would have won, what the terms would have been, and that just becomes the binding peace treaty. War gets replaced by a cold, simple, logical calculation.
But hang on, this isn't some perfect utopia we're talking about. Just because war, as we know it, is over, that does not mean the end of all conflict. Oh no, it just means the fighting moves to a new, much stranger, more abstract battlefield. The new wars might be fought over ideas, like who gets to decide what the ASI's goals are? What if one group wants to preserve Earth exactly as it is, while another wants to use the ASI's power to colonize the galaxy. You could have rebellions fighting for the simple right to be human, to make mistakes, to have free will. And then, of course, there's the ultimate nightmare, a war between two different competing ASIs, a conflict so massive and complex we literally wouldn't be able to understand.
This table really just lays it all out, doesn't it? It shows how every single thing we understand about conflict gets turned upside down. The motive goes from fighting over land to fighting over the very purpose of existence. The weapons go from missiles to rewriting reality at the molecular level. It is a complete and total paradigm shift.
So what's the big takeaway here? It's this powerful and honestly kind of chilling thought. We might be heading toward a world with a forced peace. A peace that isn't chosen, but is simply a mathematical certainty. A peace that is absolutely impossible to break.
And that leaves us with one last massive question. We could be on the verge of a world with no more war, with unbelievable prosperity for everyone. But what's the cost? Is a peace that's forced on us still real peace, or is it just a beautiful golden cage? A world where our messy, unpredictable, and sometimes violent humanity is simply programmed out of existence? That's the question we might all have to face sooner than we think.